Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on how to plan 3 months of fundraising content in one day. Oh my goodness, it seems impossible, right? How is this possible? But we're here today with Maria Bryan, who is a nonprofit specialist and strategist, and she is going to give us the best tips today for really how to get your content together in a really easy, quick plan. So I'm super excited to have her here, and she'll be sharing in just a little bit. But before we kick off our webinar today, I would love to, open up the chat. Thanks, Maria, for saying hello to everyone. Let us know who you are, your name, where you're from, maybe a question you might have coming into today's webinar. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, so you do not have to take tons and tons of notes. We're going to send you the recording as well as the slide deck. So that'll be coming your way. This webinar is live, so if you just see a talking head but you don't hear anything, maybe check your settings there, but try to make sure you can hear us because we'll be using sound today. And if you have questions, I would encourage you all to drop them in the Q&A panel, and then I'm going to be able to, make sure Maria gets to them at the end. As many as we can get to, Maria will answer. I want to welcome everyone. I don't know where you all from, but let me take a look at our guest today. Hello to Andrea from Restore Education in San Antonio, Texas. Hello, hello. And hello to Lori in Winnipeg, Canada. Hi there. And Chelsea from Cherokee Historical Association in Cherokee, North Carolina. Hello, hello. Hello, Joel in California. Oh, sunny California. And also Nicola in California, Rebuilding Together with Tuluma. Mary, hello in Los Angeles. So we got a lot of West Coasters today. Okay, and then we're coming back to the East Coast and even Canada. Hi, Sharon from Canada, and Deborah, Techies Without Borders, Pennsylvania. Hello, Aurora in Washington, D.C. Hi, Shala from Norfolk, Virginia. My best friend is living in Norfolk, Virginia right now. It's really nice there. Michelle in Iowa. Hello, and Robin in DC, another DCer. Laura from New Hampshire. Hi there. And Shelby. Wow, we've got people from all over the US. I am so excited. And even like in Canada and abroad. Stay safe out there, whoever is in trouble. We will get you the recording though in no time at all. And Maria in Miami. And Charles from Kenya. Oh my goodness, we have a global group today, and I'm so excited to have you all here. I'm going to get started with a little intro to CauseVox as we continue to wait for folks. As I said, we're joined by Maria Bryan, and I'm going to get to introduce her in just a moment. But before we do, I want to share a little bit about CauseVox. CauseVox is a digital fundraising platform, and basically we just make fundraising easy. You can run best-in-class online fundraising through donation forms and pages, mobile payments, campaigns, ticketing, peer-to-peer. You name it, you can do it all under one roof with CauseVox. And we make it really simple by providing live people like me to care for your needs and your success. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us and a real person will help you. And then on top of that, we do offer top-rated fundraising education through the forms of guides, templates, webinars like this one, courses. We even offer managed fundraising services to get your fundraising plan in line and together, and all your tactics and all your compelling content. We do have a way to walk you through that process. And as I had mentioned, whereas, typical fundraising software like maybe having a PayPal button or something, and maybe like 3 different platforms for all of your fundraising initiatives. We basically tidy all that up by helping you to run all of your fundraising under one roof. Specifically speaking about our donation forms, we know that it's crucial to have a donor converting donation form. And we help you convert more donors by adding all of today's mobile wallets, including Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, and PayPal, ACH bank transfer, which is really great for those recurring and pledge donors who need a secure online giving option. And so you can run, one-time gifts, recurring gifts, pledges, and all of those donations will have automated donation receipts attached. So you can customize those up to your tax deductible standards and all of your branding, and you're all set. You can also sell tickets in combination with your donations. So you can run a ticket form alongside your donation form to make things really easy for any event fundraising. And you can add peer-to-peer fundraising to that too. So if you need, if you're doing like a virtual challenge, a gala, a virtual or hybrid event fundraising campaign, it's perfect for that because you can do all of your peer-to-peer, all of your donations, and all of your ticketing in one place. So if you're interested and would like to see more of how CauseVox could help your specific organization reach their goals, you can go to our schedule a demo page and just schedule one of our on-demand demos or even a one-on-one demo with me so we can speak specifically about your organization. And we can also offer more and more free fundraising tips. We send free fundraising tips and resources out weekly. So you will want to subscribe to our blog to make sure you get those free resources. There are blog articles, free templates, information about these free webinars that we host. So, you'll want to make sure that you subscribe to that. And so without further ado, I want to introduce Maria Bryan. She is a nonprofit marketing and messaging strategist, and she helps nonprofit leaders basically tell impactful stories that do no harm and plan marketing. Marketing with intention. Maria has over 15 years in marketing communications in the public sector, and she has a master's degree in public education, a bachelor's degree in journalism, and is pursuing professional certifications in trauma and resilience and somatic embodiment and regulation. So she is just an incredible storyteller and really looking to make a healthier and safer and cleaner world. So welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Jenna, thank you. What a kind introduction. Quick tech check. Can everyone see and maybe Jenna, you can tell me, it should say grab your templates and there's a QR code. I just want to make sure that we're all perfect. So before I jump in, we are going to talk content planning, and y'all, I've got a number of free templates for you. There are about 2 or 3 that I'm going to go over in this, like I'm going to walk you through these actual templates. So this is something that you can implement immediately. So do make sure that you grab these templates. Not only will you receive content planning templates and resources, but you'll also receive communications policies and procedures guide, more research sources on trauma-informed marketing and messaging, which I'll touch on today too. So you can scan here. I know if you're seeing this in recording, you can scan. I also put a link in the chat. So you can go ahead and grab that as I introduce myself a little bit further. So yes, I'm Maria Bryan. I'm a nonprofit marketing and messaging strategist today, but I ended up in the nonprofit marketing world accidentally. I did study journalism, and when I finished that, I decided to join the Peace Corps. So I ended up in Ghana in West Africa as a health educator in search of story and adventure and service. And as you would imagine, it was an incredibly impactful 2 years for me. And when I returned to the United States, those of you, may have had a similar experience in your early 20s where you've spent so much time investing in yourself, in a vision and a dream you had for yourself. And all of a sudden my world kind of was rocked and I didn't know if I wanted to pursue journalism anymore. I really fell in love with public service. So I really struggled that first year back on, I wanted to go to Columbia to get my master's degree in journalism, but just telling stories didn't feel like right for me at that time. Unfortunately, I found home at a community health center in Chinatown, Manhattan, that served immigrant populations, primarily Chinese immigrants. And I was their communications assistant. So I was able to reconcile my love for storytelling while being in nonprofit, which just felt like, I found it. I found where I'm supposed to be. But the problem was I had no idea. I was so in over my head as far as nonprofit marketing communications. I didn't know what all the acronyms meant, SEO, KPIs. Social media for organizations was still pretty new. I was in college while Mark Zuckerberg was in college. So it was very new using social media on behalf of organizations. So I took webinars like this. I read as much as I could. I stumbled. I really faced a whole lot of imposter syndrome. It took me a really long time to feel confident as a nonprofit marketer, but I did eventually lead digital marketing and communications initiatives at two of the largest public health organizations serving New Yorkers. So one being that community health center and the other being the largest public health organization serving New Yorkers. And then I hit another crossroads. I had my first daughter. This is my second beautiful daughter, Winnie here. I had my first daughter in 2018 and just completely fell in love and had a big problem going back to the 9-to-5 nonprofit in-house job. As much as I loved it and as well paying as it was and fulfilling as it was, I had a really hard time leaving my daughter. And that's when I started my consultancy, Marie O'Brien Creative, which is what I do today. I train and work one-on-one with nonprofits in their messaging and their marketing. So I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. I have trained thousands of people in messaging and marketing. It has been a beautiful season for me. And y'all, again, I hit another fork in the road, another junction last year at the end of the year. I did a training just like this. And one of the participants asked me, how does your storytelling framework fit in a trauma-informed lens? And I didn't have an answer for her. And I stumbled through what I thought she could do and realized that if I was going to talk about nonprofit storytelling, that I need to understand what's out there to do this with a trauma-informed and ethical lens. And there was not much out there. So I did just complete a certification in trauma and resilience. And I will touch on this today. It's like once you know, you can't not share. So I'm an evangelist of trauma-informed storytelling and marketing. And so that is a big part of my consultancy today is learning myself how we can do this better and protect our storytellers and our story owners. And our marketers and communicators in the house, many of you are deserving of the highest quality trainings and resources for all of the work that you do in making the world a better place. So again, thank you for holding space with me today. This is going to be a really practical, tactical session. You're going to get a whole lot of good stuff here. So let's jump right in. We're gonna talk about quite a few things, but I promise I'll leave time for questions at the end. So we're going to talk about what it means to plan content in a way that is thoughtful and purpose driven. We're then going to talk about how you can create a messaging strategy that is going to set your organization apart. Of course, we're going to talk about storytelling and how key that's going to be in your messaging and your content planning. And then we're going to cap off with how can you pursue content planning in a way that dignifies and protects the people that you serve. And why does this matter? So marketers, communicators, y'all are really the face and the voice of your organization. And everything you put out, from the TikTok video to helping draft speaking points for your CEO to talk in front of thousands of people, whatever it may be, these communications and these stories have the potential to change lives, to change the trajectory of what people want to commit their wallets to and their lives to. It may help people to get the resources they need to get out of situations and better themselves. So it's crucial that you are feeling equipped and confident and telling your organization stories and creating content that you feel has purpose and not just doing things to get it out there, right? Because you feel like you haven't sent out an email in a while. Let's just get something out there. I want you to feel like you are putting things out there that are meaningful. So let's start with this marketing rule of one that is kind of set the tone for all the kinds of posts and things that you publish. And again, this doesn't have to be social media. It could be a webinar like this. It could be a podcast, any kind of communications that you're putting out into the world, whether it's print, digital, traditional, or untraditional. It all should follow this general marketing rule of one. When you're creating something, you should have one audience member in mind. You want to be conveying just one message through telling one story and end with one call to action. Now, if your immediate reaction is, we have been doing nonprofit newsletters for years and years that are geared toward 3 different people and have 5 different calls to action. And now you're telling me that I have to completely change how I'm doing things. And yes, there's going to be some things that you learned today, which is going to shake up how you have been creating content. But what I want is not only for you to be doing things that are evidence-based and shown to have good results and to convert, but really, I want your life to be easier and your job to be easier. You don't need to be reaching everyone at once, and you don't need to have several calls to action at once. Let's simplify the content that we're creating and making sure that everything about it is intentional. And the very first thing that you can do is get a bird's eye view of what your calendar is. Now, this is more of from a fundraising perspective. Y'all probably also have programs that you're thinking about and other marketing outreach. So whatever that is, there is an annual editorial calendar that's in that marketing template that I shared the link for. So this resource that I'm sharing with you is a freebie, a gift for you for attending this. So the first page of this overview year editorial calendar is what is going on in this coming year. So we're coming off at the end of the year with major fundraising. So January might just be a donor appreciation month. And then what we have from a fundraising perspective, these warm up months where we're not asking every week, every month. We're spending time between galas, between fundraisers, cultivating our audience, sharing the problem that we solve, our unique solution, and consistently sharing our impact. So the next time we come with a big ask, people have a better understanding and are more willing to take you up on that ask. So your asks in February and March may be to follow you on social media, to be subscribing to your emails. You can still have calls to action, but it's good to have these warm-up months where you are just really sharing those stories and making what maybe you might feel are lighter asks. And then maybe in the spring, you have a spring gala. Again, this could be from a programming perspective too, in a combination. So let's just say in the spring, you're really heavily promoting an event. June, maybe you have your annual report. And then you have this month of just appreciation. You're not having any asks. You're just showing your appreciation for how people are showing up. Another couple of warm-up months, and then you're gearing up for your end of year fundraising. So this is just an example of how you might zoom out a little bit and be thinking about, okay, this is what we're going to be focusing on this year. Now, when I say you're going to plan 3 months of content in one day, that might mean everything, but really my intention is for you to have a game plan, a roadmap for the content that you're planning for 3 months in advance. And while it's important to have this overview, I wouldn't look beyond the next few months to get more granular about your content. So let's talk about this warm-up content. These are topic areas, and I'm going to show you an example so you can kind of see what this looks like in action. These are different topic areas. Each one of these could be a media or a piece in itself, so a post or an email in itself. And these are all different areas of how you can inform people about your problem and inspire them with your solution and the impact that you are having. So this is what we call kind of the arc, the story arc of the people that you serve. What is the problem at hand? Who is it that you're affecting? If this is sounding familiar, this is adapted from StoryBrand, from Donald Miller. I'm thinking about the stakes. What would happen if we weren't investing in this and solving it? What is the pain that it causes? It is so important to have an understanding of not just the statistics of what's going on, but having a more personal understanding of what this means for the people that it's affecting. And we're going to talk about understanding this pain, but communicating in a way that is still trauma-informed and ethical. So I'm going to get to it. We don't want to be twisting the knife in this pain, but as communicators, we want to understand it. And then we especially want to be talking about our solution, the transformation, and our vision, what we're aspiring to. And as you're thinking about those topics, you can create content in a diverse way. So if you feel like all you're doing is creating updates, we did this week, we have this coming up, and you feel like your content is flat, it might be because you're just sharing updates. There's other ways that you can talk about these, discuss these topics or share these topics. You can do so in a way that entertains. And the kinds of nonprofits that I think do this really well are animal organizations that work with animals, especially zoos and conservatories. They have a way of really entertaining us while also educating us. Inspire, maybe share just an inspirational story or quote. Introduce your founder, introduce your staff and your volunteers, feature the people who are the humans behind your organization. Inform, this could be the infographics that you're making. Take the gravity of your issue and make it biteable and understandable for people. Interact, send out surveys or quizzes or ask, interesting questions to get people interacting. And this doesn't have to just be social media. You can be doing this in your emails too. There's plenty of ways for you to be engaging and interacting with people in your communications and marketing. And then of course you do want to be updating if that isn't part of your marketing content plan. And CTA stands for call to action. So don't forget to maybe just have posts that are just that ask to come to your next gala or to sign up for your next fundraiser. Or simply maybe if you like this post on social media, make sure that you're signing up for our email newsletter. So hopefully this inspires you to not just be posting the same image of an event and a description. There are different ways that you can talk about your issue and your solution, as well as your impact. So I wanted to show you in action how you might build out this editorial calendar. And I'm going to talk about an organization really close to my heart, Girls Leading Girls, which is a San Francisco-based organization that trains girls to be leaders through soccer. So as you can see over here, we have these topics, right? And so like Jenna said, you're going to receive this deck. So if you don't kind of get through this whole thing right now, don't feel like you need to read through it and take notes. So you're going to have access to this. But they have this one problem that they really tackle, and it's the confidence gap that girls experience as young girls. And each one of these topics is a new piece of media or post. So introducing who could be an email on its own or social media on its own. Talking about what the stakes are is its own piece of communication. And now let's talk about pain. When you have an understanding of what the pain is, what I encourage you to do is flip it and show the other side of that pain. So here we know that the pain, how painful it can be for a girl to experience this confidence gap. And what is this post? We're talking about how we're turning it around. We're taking this pain and we're turning it around. So this is an inspirational post touching on the pain. And probably in this post, they're going to talk about these things like anxiety and depression, shame and guilt. But the point of the post is their intervention and how it's working. So here's a few more different topics: what their unique solution is, what the transformation is, and what the aspiration is. And as you can see, we're introducing some people here, and some places we're showing infographics. We have a letter from the CEO. So this is an opportunity for thought leadership. So when you're thinking about these warm-up seasons, what kind of content can we be creating in between campaigns? This is a really great practice that you can do in being thoughtful about producing content, is just follow this framework of the story arc of the people that you are serving. Okay, so then let's bring it further. We have these topics. So let's build it out a little bit more. And again, this is a snapshot from the editorial calendar that you will receive. So this is just week 1. And so picture that it's week 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each month. So you have your story and focus. So let's just say that we're turning the new year and we're appreciating our donors. Also things to remember, it's New Year's, maybe that there's a certain observance that's related to your organization. Is there a CTA? Maybe it's a big CTA. We want people to donate to our campaign. Maybe it's a softer CTA. We just want to stay connected with you. And when I say we're going to build 3 months of content in one day, this is what I want you to spend a day doing every quarter. What is the subject line? What are notes on what you want to be talking about? And what is that CTA? And then in notes, you have what the platforms are. So maybe you have an email that goes out once a week or maybe once a month, and you're committed to posting on 2 different social media platforms a month. So you have this one topic that's a full email, and then you're repurposing that into bite-sized social media. So this is the magic of content planning. And again, you can do 3 months of this in one day if you're able to set that time aside. Now, you can take a step further and actually build out all that content if batching is really helpful for you. And I'm a big believer in batching. If you don't have the space, there's times in my career where I have been able to just batch the heck out of content. And there's times where I just don't have that capacity and I create as I go. So whatever space that you have, you go ahead and do that. But this is when you're actually building out content. There are so many different kinds of content calendars that you can use. There's Airtable, there's Monday, there are Google Sheets, and these are ways, again, that you can actually create the captions and maybe link to Canva. This is really great if you're working in teams. So maybe you have a graphic designer, or maybe you need approval, where you can build out your content in one space before publishing it. So again, this is an example of a content calendar Google Sheet that is in that marketing template, if that's helpful for you. And I encourage you to experiment with a few different ones before you decide what works for you. Okay, so I'm not gonna break for questions quite yet, but that's the content planning section. So if you do have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'll get to them shortly. Once you have an idea of what are the bigger topic ideas that you have, I encourage you to create a messaging strategy. Let's get on the same page. Let's be consistent about what we talk about, how we articulate our mission, what kind of data points are we pointing to, what are the maybe 2 to 3 stories that we're really going to repurpose and invest in this year. So this might look like key messaging points or a core messaging guide. And these don't have to be academic. They don't have to be really long. What they need to be are clear, memorable, and compelling. And I also encourage you to bring people to the table to create this. Make sure that your development team and marketing team are coming together on this. If there's other people, maybe it's human resources and research, people are coming together, programming staff, and making decisions on how, and of course your CEO, your founder, the principal, whatever it may be, that you're getting their buy-in and input on what your key messages are going to be. This is a great exercise. If there are a lot of acronyms, if you're maybe using words that people in the in understand, but maybe those outside don't, this is a really, really great exercise to make sure that your messaging is accessible. So what might a key messaging document look like? And it can be as simple as this. What is your central message? When you think about when you're writing a grant, and just that very first box, you've got maybe like 500 words to just summarize what you do, your boilerplate, right? So your mission, your vision, your elevator pitch, those 3 to 5 sentences on who you are. Start with that. So that, again, whether you are doing research or the grant writer or you're doing your fundraisers, everyone is talking about your work in the same way. There's consistency no matter where people are hearing from your organization. And then you want to talk about your positioning. Your positioning is what makes your organization different from the like-minded organizations or agencies or even for-profit organizations that are doing the same thing. So how is your solution innovative? What about your organization is doing things maybe creatively or outside of the box? How are the people that are representing your organization have empathy for the people you served? Do they look like the people that you serve? Do they have similar experiences as the people you serve? Your positioning likely includes your vision. What are your daring goals? How do you want to shake up this industry, make the world different and a better place? So be thinking about what separates you from other organizations. That is the key to breaking through the noise, is in your positioning. So y'all, when I say you don't want to just be talking about updates, what you're doing, when you understand your positioning, it's going to be easier to be creating posts that will fill in those other content buckets, because people want to know more than just what you're doing. They want to know what you stand for and how you're doing things differently. And once you have your positioning, back it up. So tell us what that great, innovative, unique solution and proven solution is. Tell us what your program outcomes are, not just what the programs are, but what the program outcomes are. And then make sure that you, even if you just have a bullet point of the 3 to 5 people whose stories you're going to share. So this could just be 2 to 3 pages, getting everything in one place. And this is going to be the North Star as you're building out your content. Jenna, if you don't mind putting in the link here, if your head is spinning a little bit on how to create key messaging, I did just want to invite you to have a chat with me on your messaging and how I might be able to support you in clarifying your messaging and creating a messaging strategy. And here's a QR code as well. This is just a link to my calendar. I have a few spots open in the next couple of weeks if you want to chat about the Thrive Foundation's messaging retreat. This is a 2-day retreat, a total of 8 hours, where we dig really deep into answering these things. What is your central message? What is your positioning? What sets you apart from other people? What are the key data points and the outcomes and the stories that you want to have in one place? So this is not only going to make sure that your messaging is concise and inspiring, but it's going to make your job easier. And it's really crucial to have this messaging strategy before you are creating content daily. And of course, a big component of this messaging retreat is trauma-informed training. So as you're going out there and interviewing your clients, I am going to equip you with a number of tools, things from interview questions that are trauma-informed to media consent forms and how you can create trauma-informed policies and procedures and workflows to move forward. So if you want a little bit more support on creating a story-based messaging strategy, let's hop on a call and talk a little bit further about the Thrive Foundation's messaging retreat. Okay, how are we on time? Okay, good. We're good on time. Continue to pour in some questions in the chat. If you have any questions, we'll get to them shortly. And now I want to talk a little bit about ethical and trauma-informed marketing. Does anybody in the chat know? Tell me in the chat if you know who this is, who this picture is. Let's see, you'll be aging yourself. But does anybody remember? Here we go. Yes, Holly. Joseph. Yeah, okay, here we go. So in the 90s and the aughts, we saw like an onslaught of fundraising campaigns. And this particularly one was Sally Struthers, where in this particular ad, Sally Struthers is walking through just a field of garbage, and she's got babies with flies on their head, and it's what we call poverty porn, really. She's talking about how horrible this space is and this place is. There is no voice given to the actual people. It's just this blonde, white American woman talking. And their music really tugs at your heartstrings. And it was very successful. These kinds of ads raised an insane amount of money for these kinds of organizations. And I'm sure you're thinking of animal-based organizations too, where you just see really pitiful, sad animals in need of rescue. And there's no really hope or transformation in these ads. There's just the feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. This follows a very simple and key traditional marketing tactic, which is to understand pain points, to put in the knife and twist it, and then make your ask. They say if it bleeds, it leads, for those of you in journalism who have started off in journalism like me. And while these tactics work, they are absolutely unethical to the people we serve. They are not giving them agency. Worse, they can absolutely re-traumatize the people that we serve. So I say that we can do better, and I want you to be equipped to do better. We can fundraise and communicate about the people we serve in a way that uplifts them, that dignifies them, and most importantly, protects them. So here's just a quote from someone, and I think and Theo Sawa from the African Women's Development Fund, that I think is so important. If you're who I call story owners, the people who bravely share their stories in order for you to fundraise and to market your programs, if they are feeling like victims, we're separating them. It's an us and them, and we become what? We become saviors. And most importantly, we don't ask victims for a solution. So how can we become partners with the people we serve, with our story owners, instead of inviting our donors to be angels and saviors? So here's a few ways that we can do this. And I'm specifically here talking about ethical marketing and storytelling. Married to trauma-informed, it a little bit different. And this is giving your lead abundant agency. The people that you serve are humans. They're nuanced and they're complicated. And we want to make sure that we don't have such a rigid story arc in mind that we're not allowing them to have control over their story and telling their story as is. So make sure that when you are creating space for people to tell their story, that you truly are giving them that space to have agency over their story and their experiences, and not cut out the parts that don't maybe align with the beginning and end that you want to be sharing. Be aware of your biases, privilege, and experiences and your perspectives as a storyteller. They absolutely can impact the storytelling process. There's no checklist here. It's a practice, and it takes time, and it takes grace. And it takes very, very good listening skills in order to remove your preconceived notions and worldview and allow people to tell their nuanced and complex stories. We may feel like we need to do things short form. We're really fast paced. People are scrolling. They're not reading their emails. And when we have such little space to tell our clients stories, we don't feel like we have enough room for context. And this is where I really challenge you to not cut things. First of all, long form is back. People are staying on social media and investing in a story. Maybe it's when you're sharing stories on Instagram, it's a series and people are really getting the whole story. People are reading long form articles. You know, those of you here today are here for an hour listening to me talk. That's a lot more than the 15 seconds attention span that we're being told that we have. So honor context, honor the socioeconomic factors, the societal factors that have brought people to your doorstep. It's important. Don't cut that out. Also, in your call to action, you can do so in a way that invites people to have empathy and to join your organization as partners, not as saviors. And one key way to do this is to finish that story arc, meaning you're not stopping halfway, saying, here is this person who is homeless, single, has a daughter in kindergarten, they don't know where they're going to get their next meal from, and then have your call to action. You want to go through the stakes, the pain, but then you get through the end of the journey and what the transformation and the aspiration is. So make sure you're closing that loop, you're finishing that storytelling arc. It is so important that you're ending your story on a note of hope and inspiration and transformation, not stopping midway through. That is the difference between somebody being asked to save a person and somebody celebrating your organization and joining hands with you by opening their wallets. Okay, I'm going to take a minute for everyone to read this quote. This is from Damian Cooper, who his story is that he experienced gun violence and founded a really powerful organization to mentor young men. And he last year wrote a really powerful article for Chronicle Philanthropy on how he has been expected to tell his very traumatic story, sometimes at a drop of a dime when a potential supporter just wants to learn more about their organization, and what it takes for someone to tell their story. It's really powerful as marketers and storytellers for us to understand the toll that it can take for people to tell their story. So how can we put together a story gathering process that understands this, that honors this, and that protects our story owners when they are willing to share very traumatizing and painful experiences that they have had? Let's start with this understanding that no matter how much we have generously served our clients and beneficiaries, they don't owe us their story. So I think we can get into a little bit dangerous territory when in our intake forms or as people are leaving, we ask them to share more about their story, because then we get into this gray area of, are they actually giving us permission to tell their story? And we don't want people to feel like in order to receive our services, they need to be sharing and telling their story. So let's start there. People need to have full control and autonomy on when or whether they are willing to share their story. Also, make sure that your story owners have given informed and enthusiastic consent. The good news is, and I've just been certified in trauma and resilience. Sharing narrative is a powerful way to heal from trauma. And there are going to be people you serve that are going to heal through telling their story and are thrilled to tell their story. find those people and make sure that they're in a space where they're ready and willing, and they have given consent in a way that is culturally appropriate, language appropriate. There's a really great media consent form on ethicalstorytelling.com that I highly encourage you. It's probably one of the most trauma-informed media consent forms that I have seen out there. And again, encourage you to make sure people have completed this transformation loop. So if someone is in the most painful experience of their life as you are serving them, it's not a good time to ask them to share their story. Wait until they have maybe become alumni of your program. Evidence shows that it can take up to 3 months before post-traumatic stress symptoms start to show themselves. So people might not even know the extent of what is going on in their bodies and their hearts and their souls after they have experienced something very traumatic. So allow for plenty of space after these experiences to ask people to share their stories. Okay, now we talk a little bit more process and protocol. There's no one who's going to be more fiercely protective of your clients than program staff. Let me hear an amen in the chat if you feel that to be so true. A lot of times they give these trainings, and marketers say, every time I ask program staff to get involved, they say, don't prance my clients around for your fundraising needs. And I know we can butt heads sometimes with our programming staff, but I have gratitude for that from a trauma-informed and ethical perspective. And we can build bridges in a really positive and beautiful way with our program staff, because they are going to know the people that have completed that transformation loop. They're likely in touch with those people who are willing and excited to tell their story. So if you can include them in the storytelling process, see if they're willing to literally be in the room as you are interviewing them, if they can be part of the consent process, definitely they should be the ones that are bringing to you people who are ready and willing to tell their story. And during the interview process, make sure that you are allowing lots of space. It can be, people might not even realize the re-trauma that is taking place when they're telling their story. And again, there's no checklist for this. This is going to take time and practice for you to know when someone maybe is having a re-traumatization while you're interviewing them. But the least that you can do is making sure that they have chosen that space where the interview is, allow people to take breaks, allow people to end the conversation when needed. They can choose who's going to be in the room. Maybe you're not the best person to be interviewing them, and that's okay. And one other thing is that before every single question that you ask, make sure that you're reminding people that they have choice on whether they are going to answer the question and how fully they want to answer the question. Because they might feel obligated to answer a question because they've agreed to this interview, but you want to continually give people permission and autonomy to tell their story in a way that's safe for them. I recently worked with a really amazing woman who lost her infant child and started a nonprofit for bereavement, really advocating for holistic bereavement care, holistic, not just grieving, but all kinds of assistance for people who are going through the bereavement process. And when I was working with her on her story, she said to me, I have no problem talking about my story, but don't ask me about my daughter's diagnosis. Don't ask me how she died. Don't even ask me her name. Like what my daughter's story and experience is really no one's business, but I'll tell you my story and what I experienced. Now, not everyone is going to have those boundaries, and she obviously had to set those boundaries, even though I would never have asked her those things, because a number of journalists were really trying to get at those answers and to be able to integrate that into their stories. Again, people might not know to set those boundaries for themselves. So you just have to continually give people permission to not answer things or to answer things as comfortably as they feel that they need to. And here's another important one. You might go through this whole process and it takes so much time and it's even a lot of energy for you, and you create this story. Maybe it's even a video and it's out in the wild and the person sees it and decides that they're not comfortable with their story being out there. Retract their story at any time, no questions asked. When I worked at the community health center in Chinatown, and this is 10 years ago now, we had this huge, very expensive photo shoot. And so there was above and beyond consent for people who took part in this photo shoot. And we printed so many brochures, and that's one of our patients saw her picture and decided she didn't want her image on this brochure, even though she had provided all of this written in verbal consent. And because of the sensitivities around immigrants, especially at that time, people being undocumented, living in New York City, there was just no questions asked. We just threw away every single brochure and started from the beginning with another image. That's what it takes to truly top down, be trauma informed in your story gathering process. So I want to just close this off with a video. This is a short video that I think does a really beautiful job of closing this transformation loop, telling a really powerful and inspirational story. So hopefully this inspires you in your storytelling as well.
I was diagnosed with retinoblastoma in my left eye when I was 4 years old. And at that age, I don't remember much.
When Emmanuel was first diagnosed, it was very traumatic to hear that my child had cancer. When we arrived at St. Jude, we made the decision to have Emmanuel's eye removed, and Emmanuel recovered so well.
Around the time I first really realized I survived cancer was around the time I first started playing football. I realized it isn't as easy play football with one eye than it is with two. Some things I would do to really help my hand-eye coordination would be something so simple as just throwing something up and being able to make sure I have the depth perception to catch it. Everybody else did have a little advantage over me, but as I got older, I became a harder worker to overcome what a lot of people call a disability.
Emmanuel never let his lack of an eye hold him back in anything. Emmanuel's one of the hardest workers I've ever met. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever coached. He has a phenomenal GPA, which is serving him well now that he is going to go play football in college.
It's been a long journey, and now I'm finally graduating high school, going off to college. St. Jude basically just saved my life, and I feel like I should do anything and everything I can to give back to them so they can help save another child's life.
Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. We didn't skirt around the pain. You know, this mother talks about what it was like for a child to get diagnosed, and within 22 seconds, we covered the pain portion of the story. And she talked about there being trauma. And so when I say we don't want to skirt around pain, we can talk about it. But if you look at St. Jude's videos from even just a couple of years ago, a good portion of their videos were showing really, really emotional and I think even disturbing videos of children with cancer covered in wires, and you hear the beeping instead of inspiring music like here, you hear beeping, which I would imagine would be incredibly traumatizing for people to watch this video who have experienced their child having childhood cancer, and who are likely many of their donors, parents who have had childhood cancer. So you are attracting people to donate who have had similar experiences. So they have, even in their music choices, have chosen uplifting music, and they're clear about the pain, but most of this video is really focusing on this young man's complex story, and doesn't jump to, and then it's happily ever after. He survives cancer, but he still has these complex, difficult journey, having one eye, and he conquers them. And he has support from not just people from the hospital. He has this coach that has nothing to do with St. Jude, but is this other character in his story. And at the end is this, you're filled with transformation and hope and awe, because here is this young man who survived cancer, who is going off to college and playing football, ever having survived this childhood eye cancer. So I think, no, this isn't necessarily perfect, but I think St. Jude has gone a long way from having serving people who are experiencing true trauma and telling stories and asking for support, focusing on transformation and awe, instead of leaning into the pain of having a child in a hospital with cancer and staying in that really painful moment. So kudos to St. Jude's. Okay, so we're wrapping up here. I'll have a few minutes to answer questions. I just want to say there are probably new ideas on how to plan your content, how to structure your messaging strategy, and trauma-informed and ethical storytelling that might make you feel uncomfortable and overwhelmed. And I just want you to know that I bring this to you with so much love and empathy and grace. And just, again, a lot of these aren't checklists. They're just practicing, and there's just a commitment to doing things in a way that are more intentional and ethical. So thank you for being in this space, and we're all in it together, and we're learning together. Again, just this is the magic of planning content ahead, what it does for you practically and what it does for your mission and your movement. And a reminder that all of you in this room are making the world a better place, just as your role as storytellers. So thank you for that. And I'm going to close my screen in a second, but I'm going to share a few links on how we can keep in touch. I do have this core messaging retreat if you want more support in your messaging strategy. I do one-on-one consultations if you want to chat more about your marketing. I also have a free Facebook group where we can keep in touch. I can answer your questions, and when I have trainings like this, I can keep you in the loop about them. But I'm going to unshare my screen, and let's answer some questions.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that time, Maria. Yeah, I think there were some from Hensley earlier. Let's see. How do you come up with a market campaign for successful donations?
Okay. First, I just put a bunch of links in the chat. How do you come up with a successful marketing campaign for donations? So like a fundraising campaign. Is that what I'm...
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Okay, great. So a lot of what we talked about today is going to be really helpful for you. So we talked about having one audience, one message, one story, and one call to action. Think about the different platforms that you can use. Maybe it's email, maybe it's social media. You have a platform like Cosvox, where you have a platform where people can actually make that donations or buy tickets to your event. Okay, so, and it can be in person too. You're like having a gala, or maybe you're getting people together in your house for dinner and making that ask. So the marketing part of it is, how are you communicating in a way where people have an understanding of the problem, what your solution is, and then you're telling a story so people can really understand, to really humanize it. And then you have that call to action, which for fundraising is to give. So that video I showed could just be a component of your fundraising campaign. Here's an organization that specializes in childhood cancer. And so they tell this really beautiful story of this young man who has survived cancer, and how they're, and after showing this video, you might say, because of your donation, our patients don't have to pay a dime towards their care. And so that's the call to action. So it's really weaving in all of those things. And typically campaigns sometimes are over the course of 3 weeks, sometimes they're over the course of 6 weeks, where you're sharing these stories and these calls to action for something very maybe specific. Maybe it's for your mission, or maybe it's for a specific project. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, yeah, Hensley, it might be beneficial if you set up that one-on-one time with Maria, since maybe to go through all the one-on-one kind of questions about your organization specifically. I know you also were wondering about best CTAs. What are the best CTAs for a new nonprofit? That can be helpful.
Yeah. And I know we're at time. I could stay for a few more minutes if anyone else has more questions. So just want to give that space if needed. Okay, so for a new nonprofit, I think it's really important that when you're making bigger asks, like fundraising asks, that you are making those asks to people that are in your inner circle. Now, I'm not a fundraising expert, but I will say that in those very beginning years, people are not just donating because of the significant problem that you're solving, but likely because they want to support you, right? And they love you and they want to support you. So don't be afraid to ask your closest network, your colleagues, your family, and your friends, your church, your mosque, whoever it may be, to support your organization. Now, to broaden your audience in those beginning times, that's a great time to be building your email list. So your ask is maybe to join your email list or to follow you on social media, or maybe if you do things like you have a podcast or webinar, directing people to be part of your audience in a more consistent way is a great call to action in the beginning with people who don't quite know who you are. So you might be tempted as soon as you're meeting someone to ask them to become a monthly donor. It's kind of like asking someone to marry you on the first date, right? Maybe they will, but maybe that might be a good time just to invite people to stay in touch with you. So that's what I encourage you to do.
Yeah, that's great tip there. Gotta develop a relationship first. Yeah, well, if you have any additional questions that we didn't get to today, yeah, feel free to reach out to Maria through the links that she provided. You can also get in touch with CauseVox if you're looking for a demo, or if you're looking for a donation form through which to receive all of those donations that you'll get after you write up your very compelling content. As I had mentioned, you can also subscribe to our free resources where you can get more information and resources like today's webinar. And then again, if you have any additional questions, you can email us at support@causevox.com. But yeah, I just want to thank you all again so much for taking the time out today. And thank you again to Maria. Give her some great clap emojis or appreciation emojis. But yeah, I really appreciated your session today and all of the information around ethical marketing. So thank you so much. And everyone have a great day. Take care now.
Thank you, everyone.